Welcome back. I'm Amanda. I flip furniture with my father. Why are my hands on my hips? How do people do these intros? Anyway, you're watching Build It Like Becker. That was a heart. Could you tell? I'm nervous. Okay.
Let's take a closer look at this nightstand pair I bought from Facebook Marketplace for $50. The owner let me know that the puppy liked to use them as chew toys. And you can clearly see that damage from the crushed corners, which exposed the MDF underneath, so these will have to be painted. There are a couple scratches on the top and minor water damage, but overall, pretty straightforward project. So let's get into the flip. First things first, let's clean. I'm using a mixture of soap and water and a scrub brush just to get any oil or debris off the surface so I don't grind it in when I scuff sand. Then I'm using a microfiber rag and water to rinse off any soap. Don't forget to rinse off any degreaser you use. Very important. If it's left on, your paint, your primer is not going to stick. So do yourself a favor, rinse and rinse well. Since this was particle board and MDF, I didn't want to oversaturate it or leave it with standing water on it because it could swell the particle board. Especially in those exposed corners, I made sure not to get any water in that area. Once it was rinsed, I quickly dried it off with a microfiber rag. Once your furniture is cleaned and prepped, you're ready to start the fun stuff. Now let's get to flipping. Something you should know about me, I hate wood plugs, so this part is completely optional. You could definitely leave the wooden plugs alone and paint over them, but I think they're ugly, especially these because these are square plugs in a circular hole and I just think it's tacky. But you do you. I'm using a paint scraper and a hammer to lightly chip away at the wooden plug. I was trying to be careful not to chip away at the legs, but I did nick the legs on a couple sides. No big deal because I'm going to be filling those areas anyway. I was trying to get them as flush as possible so I didn't have to do a ton of sanding later. I knew I would have to use an 80 grit sandpaper if I left any of the wood plug in there so it could shape it, which was a little risky, so I wanted to try to avoid having to use 80 grit sandpaper to burn down the wood plugs. Once I got all the wood plugs out, it's time to fill. I'm using Bondo, which if you're new to flipping and haven't used Bondo, run to the store, go get it now. It's your best friend. Bondo is great for large repairs that need a little bit more strength. It's designed to be waterproof and non-shrinkable. Plus it's sandable in about 15 minutes, which is a good and a bad thing. It's great because you can move on from your repair pretty quickly, but you gotta work fast once the hardener is added. So right now, I'm probably putting too much on my board because I'm not gonna be able to work that fast, but you know, dream big. I recommend starting with a small amount so that you can get used to it. There is a little bit of a learning curve with how much Bondo you should pull out. Oop, drop the hardener right into it. Good job, Amanda. Once you get your set amount that you want to use, you apply the hardener. And of course, the cardboard that I'm working on blocked this view. 10 out of 10 filming skills. But the more hardener you add, the quicker it's going to dry. So I tried to not do too much. I probably needed to add a little bit more here. If you don't add enough, it's going to prolong your dry time. And if you add too much, it's going to harden very quickly. But since I knew I had a lot of repairs to make, I was okay with it drying slowly. Next time though, I should probably just work in smaller quantities and make more when I need it. Also, disclaimer, wear your PPE. I can be pretty messy, so I've got my gloves on and I'm also wearing a mask, full respirator, because this stuff is stinky. We do not need all those chemicals in our lungs. Our lungs are healthy. They're gorgeous. Stay that way. As you can see, I've just built up my first round of Bondo on the corner. Yes, we will be doing multiple layers. Build it up, baby. And I'm also making sure I'm pushing down the Bondo into those holes that I took the wood plugs out of. While we're waiting for that to dry, let's address the small amount of water damage. I carefully knocked it down with 150 grit sandpaper. Be careful not to dig into the surrounding area, so light hand on the sander. I ran my hand along it to make sure it was flat before moving on, and now I'm double checking that I got every place that I needed to wood fill. I'm looking for those smaller dings and scratches, or in this case, I'm filling in those nail holes that holds in the trim. I like to use little pieces of tape so I know where to fill and what places still need to be sanded later. This is what takes your projects to the next level, so if you aren't filling your scratches, dents, and dings, start now. Unfortunately, I didn't get any footage of me sculpting the corners while sanding back the Bondo because I was so focused on getting it just right, but any spaces that weren't completely filled or needed a little extra filler, I just used my DAP wood filler. I definitely could have just painted these and made them look new again, but that's kind of boring in my opinion, so I like to keep things spicy. I found this scrap piece of textured wallpaper at a local craft thrift store in my town, and I thought, what a perfect addition. Because these drawers already had a trim, I had to pre-cut the wallpaper, so my dad had the bright idea to measure and cut a template for all 4 pieces. Dad's always thinking efficiently. I'm gonna put the wallpaper aside for later, but just wanted to give you a sneak peek. Alright, so my tables had their first round of filler done, and we are ready for prime. I used Bin Synthetic Shellac Primer because at the time it was $25 cheaper on Amazon, and your girl isn't rich. I also suggest getting a paint pourer to avoid this mess, but I was being lazy and it shows. The benefit of synthetic shellac though is that you can use soap and water to rinse it from your brushes or rollers, whereas shellac primer will need to be washed with denatured alcohol. Warning, either one is going to be a little harsh on your brushes because it dries so quickly, so keep that in mind. I wouldn't use your favorite brush or roller. I also like to seal the particle board since it's prone to water damage, so you'll see me prime underneath as well. Now let's apply this wallpaper. Since I took the measurements of the drawers before it was primed, my wallpaper was not quite fitting like it did before. So I took my Carbide scraper and I very lightly scratched out the very edge so my wallpaper would lay flat inside the trim. I always suggest priming if you're going to apply wallpaper to your furniture because it will give the glue something to stick to. Then I used Roman wallpaper glue and applied a thin but generous amount all along the area that I was adding the wallpaper, making sure to get a good layer around all the edges and corners because that is where your problem areas are going to be if you aren't careful. Usually I use a J-roller to press the wallpaper down, but since this area was so small and the trim was blocking any roller, I used my Costco card. Shout out Costco. Make sure you press it into the corners. I wiped back any excess glue with a microfiber rag. I waited 24 hours before painting, and here's the result. I used Restoration Bronze by Melange 1 paint in the original hardware as it had some bronze undertones that really complemented the brown undertones in the paint. And here's that close-up of the wallpaper. What do you guys think?
Wasn't that riveting? A little spicy. Okay, let's talk about a little behind the scenes action. So what you didn't get to see on camera, mostly because my phone storage was full. Anyway, so I did about 3 to 4 rounds of Bondo and wood filler. It's been a big learning curve to try to figure out how to get all of that flush and looking good 10 out of 10. So that's been something that I've had to get over. But you know what? My dad's always said, you gotta learn from every single project. So that is what we are doing. We are learning. We did eventually get it. It just took a little bit longer than it should have. Additionally, as you saw in the video, I used a foam roller to do my primer, which I don't normally do. I don't like foam rolling because I tend to be a little heavy-handed sometimes. You don't want to be heavy-handed, and it shows when you are foam rolling. So I got some drips, and Bin shellac is, even if it's synthetic, it's hard to sand down. So that was very, very annoying. Very annoying. But I did it. We sanded it down. She was smooth. She was good. But it took some extra time. The last issue that I didn't film was my paint issue. I used Melange 1 paint, which is a great, it's all-in-one. However, I got the 16-ounce jar, and I'll never do it again because I was scraping paint out of that jar. Scraping it, which was super stressful because I like to have a little extra for touch-ups to give to my clients. But we got by. I just would like a quart minimum at all times. Plus, that paint is very expensive, okay? So I was not about to pay $30 again, just so I could do some touch-ups. So, lesson learned, I'll be getting the quart. I'll be using my Wooster's 3/8 nap every single time for my foam rolling, or not my foam rolling, my brushing and my rolling when I do that, when I hand paint or prime. And additionally, just take your time with the wood filler, with the Bondo. It does really help your pieces, but there's a learning curve. So don't get frustrated if it's not perfect the first time, because you can fix it. That's the beauty of it. Furniture flipping, you can fix it. You can fix anything. Excellent. So in total, I spent about $40 on this project. I sold them for $300 within the week, so I got them out quickly. So my profit was about, what, $260? Not bad, not bad, not bad. But it took me a little extra time because of the Bondo, because of the sanding. But you know, we live and we learn. But thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. I hope to see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe.